Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. This time I'm going to talk about my switch from a wired internet connection to a 5G wireless service using this Cudy P5 router. 2 months ago, if you told me I'd be switching from wired to wireless internet, I'd have told you you were insane. But this is exactly what's happened, and I've ended up with a faster connection for a lower price. Please note, I'm in no way suggesting that other people should do what I've done, not least because it depends on local 5G availability. But I thought you might be interested in my story and the wireless hardware that's now available. For many years, my network setup looked like this, with an internet connection provided by an ISP called British Telecom, or BT. Specifically, BT provided fibre to the cabinet, or FTTC, which was linked to my router by a copper line. PCs in my office, studio and living room then accessed this connection via Ethernet, with mobile devices using Wi-Fi. In the UK, a company called Openreach manages the network infrastructure used by BT and many other ISPs. At present, Openreach is updating millions of homes to a fibre to the premises or FTTP internet connection. However, due to some practical and legal issues, it's not been possible to replace my own copper line with an optical fibre. For years, my setup worked perfectly, and I had a reliable internet connection with about a 53 megabits per second download speed, 10 megabits per second upload, and a ping of about 20 milliseconds. However, on August 19th, the connection went dead. By September 17th, it was finally discovered that Openreach had deprovisioned it, and that a possible solution was for me to cancel my service and to reapply to BT for a new account. However, this risked losing the landline phone number I'd had for 35 years. And given that BT had given me a different story every few days for 4 weeks, and that Openreach refuses to even communicate with domestic customers, I decided to implement my 5G solution with the wireless internet connection provided by an ISP called 3. As most viewers of this channel are not in the UK, I'll say no more about the specifics, save that I do still have a landline phone from BT with the same number, and I'm now paying £16 rather than £46.51 a month for my internet connection. And I've included more details in the video description. Fortunately, when my wired internet connection failed, I didn't go offline for 29 days. And this is because I had this D-Link DWR932 4G LTE mobile router. I've used this MiFi device when travelling and kept it as a backup for several years, and it's fitted with a data-only SIM from 3. The device offers a Wi-Fi connection for up to 32 devices simultaneously and can also be connected to a computer via USB, where it's recognised as a wired connection. To give you an idea of the performance of this 4G device, let's do just that. Let's connect it to a computer via USB with a lead going in like that. And if we go across to the desktop, we can see down here the device has been recognised as a wired connection. There it is. So if we go to a website to perform a broadband speed check, here we go. Let's start the test like that and scroll back to where the test is being done. There we are. And in theory, the D-Link supports up to 150 megabits per second download and 50 megabits per second upload. But this depends on the ISP and the quality of a network connection. So let's speed on forwards in time to let this test complete. And there we are. We've got a latency, a ping result of 41 milliseconds with a download of 26 megabits per second and an upload of 35. And this upload result in particular is pretty good for 4G LTE. Although I have had even better results. Right now we're testing in the evening, and I did this test just after midnight a few days ago and got, as you can see, a download of 50, an upload of 44, and once again a latency of 41 milliseconds. So, given the speeds, I've been very impressed with this 4G MiFi unit, which has kept me online for over a month, working flawlessly for general browsing, writing in Google Docs, YouTube uploads, software downloads and streaming. But I did still miss my Ethernet network, and I knew that 5G hardware could provide a faster connection. Indeed, if we look at this table, we can see that 5G may significantly improve my download speed and possibly upload, although my 4G upload speed may be hard to beat. It's also worth noting that theoretical and real-world speeds are very different due to factors that include the specific hardware used, network congestion, distance from a cell tower, and obstructions that block signal. In particular, it's worth noting that 5G uses higher frequencies than 4G, and that these have a shorter range and are more likely to be blocked by concrete, brick walls, trees, and other common objects. And so, it's not guaranteed that I'll get a massive performance improvement by moving to 5G. Right, shall we take a look at my new 5G Cudy P5 router? And this is a significant upgrade compared to the D-Link 4G MiFi device I was previously using, not least because it offers wired as well as wireless LAN connectivity. And it's also got far better antennas as well as a design intended for continuous operation. As you would expect, this came in a box which looked like this. And inside it was all packed up like this. But for once I did a very quick unboxing that I didn't record on video. However, if we strip things back to the basic components, we can see that included are the base unit, to which the Wi-Fi antennas are permanently attached, as well as 4 detachable cellular antennas. And we also get a power adapter with a rather short cable and also an Ethernet cable. The Cudy P5 is generally listed on Amazon UK for £269.99 and for up to $399 on Amazon US. Although, for some reason, it's currently selling in the UK for £219.72. And this is less than the compensation I'm receiving from BT for my wired internet outage. The router can support a 5G connection with a theoretical download speed of 3.4 gigabits per second and 900 megabits per second upload. At the front, we have 4 multicolour LEDs to indicate power, cellular connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity, and cellular signal strength. And all of these LEDs should turn solid blue in normal operation. Around the back, there's then a lot more to see, starting with the connectors for the 4 removable cellular antennas. And it's good that the antennas are removable, as it means that external antennas can be used if required. Also on the back, at one end, we have a barrel jack for power, a power switch, a WPS button, and a hole to access a reset button. And at the other end, we have slots to take 1 or 2 nano SIM cards, which click in and out just like a microSD card. And as we can see, my 3 nano SIM is already inserted, and it's great that 2 SIMs can be fitted to achieve redundancy and that they're very easy to access. Finally, in the middle, we have 4 1 gigabit Ethernet ports. And indeed, one of the reasons I bought this router is that those offered by 5G broadband providers in the UK do not have this many RJ45 sockets. In theory, the Cudy P5 is therefore ideal to form the heart of my home network. So, it's now time to see how it performs. Right, here we are back on the Linux Mint desktop of my i5 test rig, which is now connected to the Cudy 5P across the Ethernet LAN I talked about earlier in the video. And just before we do a live speed test, I thought I'd take you through how I got to this point. Initially, when I first powered it up, I had the router on the floor where I logged into its control panel and it prompted me to set an admin password and then to run through a very straightforward setup. And we'll take a closer look at the control panel in the next part of the video. Anyway, with the router on the floor, I did do a speed test and got this, a download of about 18 and an upload of 43. So things were working with a solid upload but a disappointing download. Next, I put the router on a windowsill on the side of my property that faces my closest cellular tower, and I got this: ping 41, download 96 and upload 50. And having got these results, I smiled and breathed a great sigh of relief, as I'd be very happy indeed to live with these numbers. But I then turned the router around, making cable access harder but putting its cellular antennas right up to the glass, and I got this: ping 40, 418 download and 47 upload. And I almost didn't believe this, so I repeated the test and got 36, 373, 47. So things are somewhat variable, as we would expect with wireless internet, but my 5G connection is clearly working very well indeed. However, I did experiment further, first placing the router on the top corner of the shelving above my desk, so giving it maximum internal elevation. And this gave an initial test result of 39, 422, 31, and a second test result of 39, 414, 33. So, moving from the windowsill to high in a corner had improved download speed at the expense of upload. And for me, an upload of 40-something rather than 30-something is far more important, and so I've decided to pick the windowsill location. However, out of interest, I then placed the router outside, first on a low garden wall where I got a 37, 302, 43. So a worse result than on the windowsill inside, probably due to being far closer to the ground. And I did try the router outside a bit higher on a wheelie bin, which gave me a 41, 302, 50. And I imagine if I set up an external antenna at roof height, I could push upload even further. However, my main conclusion here is that there's no point going to the hassle of setting up external antennas. And so I've returned the P5 to my windowsill to where I need to neatly extend power and 4 Ethernet cables, which is not going to be a problem. And I did run a final test which delivered a very pleasing 39 ping, 467 download and 43 upload. So again, things are variable and/or the router is extremely location sensitive. Anyway, let's run a final live test, and it is worth pointing out all of my earlier tests were done early mid-morning and it's now mid-afternoon. Anyway, let's start the speed test. Here we go, and get past all the advertising stuff like that. They've got to earn their money, haven't they? Anyway, what are we going to get? Let's use the magic of filmmaking to speed on through. And there we are, a download of 551, ping 36, and an upload of 33. So very impressive results, particularly the download, slight drop in the upload, but this is all sort of noise in the system now. I am very pleased indeed with the 5G connection on my home network. Greetings! Let's now take a quick look at the P5's control panel. And the main thing to say is that I'm extremely impressed, as it's the best router interface I've ever used. As we can see, the status screen provides loads of useful information, and if we go across to general settings, we've got extensive clear controls. These include the ability to enable SMS, which is critical if your service provider insists on sending two-factor security codes to a data-only device. And it's also good that we have here the ability to monitor and limit data use. Over in wireless, there's a Smart Connect feature to allow the 2.4 and 5 GHz Wi-Fi to share the same SSID and password, which sadly cannot be selected during the initial setup. And it's also possible here to enable extensive VPN support. Over in advanced settings, there's a massive functionality, as we can see, including the ability to set up a guest network. And then if we look down under security, there's also lots of features here, including IP and domain filtering, in addition to a firewall. And I particularly also like the Wi-Fi schedule functionality, which allows Wi-Fi to be deactivated at certain times of day. And this is certainly something I'm going to set up. And I also plan on using another function down here, which is timed reboot. and which enables a reboot to be scheduled on a daily or weekly basis, which can be handy when using a wireless internet connection. My migration to 5G wireless broadband has been a success, although it should be noted I do live fairly close to a 5G cell tower. But what about you? How do you connect to the internet, and what challenges have you overcome? Please let us all know down in the comments section. But now that's it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.